The golden rule, a law of reciprocity, is the principle of treating others as one would wish to be treated oneself. It is a maxim of altruism seen in many human religions and human cultures. The maxim may appear as either a positive or negative injunction governing conduct. One should treat others as one would like others to treat oneself. One should not treat others in ways that one would not like to be treated. What you wish upon others, you wish upon yourself. The golden rule differs from the maxim of reciprocity captured in Do-What-Does. I give so that you will give in return, and is rather a unilateral, moral commitment to the well-being of the other without the expectation of anything in return. The concept occurs in some form in nearly every religion and ethical tradition. It can also be explained from the perspectives of psychology, philosophy, sociology, and economics. Psychologically, it involves a person empathizing with others. Philosophically, it involves a person perceiving the neighbor also as I or self. Sociologically, love your neighbor as yourself is applicable between individuals, between groups, and also between individuals and groups. In economics, Richard Swift, referring to ideas from David Graeber, suggests that, without some kind of reciprocity, society would no longer be able to exist. Etymology. The term golden rule or golden law began to be used widely in the early 17th century in Britain. The earliest known usage is that of Charles Gibbon in 1604. Antiquity. Ancient Egypt, possibly the earliest affirmation of the maxim of reciprocity, reflecting the ancient Egyptian goddess Ma, who appears in the story of the eloquent peasant, which dates to the Middle Kingdom. Now this is the command to the doer to make him do. Quote, this proverb embodies the do-what-does principle. A late-period papyrus contains an early negative affirmation of the golden rule, that which you hate to be done to you, do not do to another. Ancient Near East. The golden rule appears in the following biblical verse: you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against your kinsfolk. Love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Ancient China. The golden rule existed among all the major philosophical schools of ancient China: Mohism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Examples of the concept include: never impose on others what you would not choose for yourself. Confucius. If people regarded other people's families in the same way that they regard their own, who then would incite their own family to attack that of another? For one would do for others as one would do for oneself. Mozi. Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. Laozi. Ancient India. Sanskrit tradition. In Mahabharata, the ancient epic of India, comes a discourse where the wise minister Vidura advises the king Yudhishthira thus: listening to wise scriptures, austerity, sacrifice, respectful faith, social welfare, forgiveness, purity of intent, compassion, truth and self-control are the 10 wealth of character. O king, aim for these. May you be steadfast in these qualities. These are the basis of prosperity and rightful living. These are highest attainable things. All worlds have balanced on Dharma. Dharma encompasses ways to prosperity as well. O king, Dharma is the best quality to have, wealth the medium, and desire the lowest. Hence, by self-control and by making Dharma your main focus, treat others as you treat yourself. Tasmad_Dharma Pradhanena Bhavatavyam Yatatmana Tathachas Avabhutesu Vartatavyam Yadatmani. Tamil tradition. In the section on virtue, and chapter 32 of the Tirukural, Tiruvalluvar says, why does a man inflict upon other creatures those sufferings, which he has found by experience are sufferings to himself? Let not a man consent to do those things to another which he knows will cause sorrow. He furthermore opined that it is the determination of the spotless not to do evil, even in return, to those who have cherished enmity and done them evil. The punishment to those who have done evil is to put them to shame by showing them kindness in return, and to forget both the evil and the good done on both sides. Ancient Greece. The Golden Rule in its prohibitive form was a common principle in ancient Greek philosophy. Examples of the general concept include: avoid doing what you would blame others for doing. Thales. What you do not want to happen to you, do not do it yourself either. Sextus the Pythagorean. The oldest text and reference to Sextus is by Origen in the 3rd century of the Common Era. Do not do to others that which angers you when they do it to you. Socrates. Ancient Persia. The Pahlavi texts of Zoroastrianism were an early source for the Golden Rule, that nature alone is good which refrains from doing to another whatsoever is not good for itself. Dadist and Nidinic, 94:5, and whatever is disagreeable to yourself do not do unto others. Ancient Rome. Seneca the Younger, a practitioner of Stoicism, expressed the Golden Rule in his essay regarding the treatment of slaves: treat your inferior as you would wish your superior to treat you. The Stoic philosophy of Seneca. Religious context. Abrahamic religions. Judaism. A rule of altruistic reciprocity was first stated positively in a well-known Torah verse: you shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against your kinsfolk. Love your neighbor as yourself, I am the Lord. Hillel the Elder used this verse as a most important message of the Torah for his teachings. Once, he was challenged by a Gentile who asked to be converted under the condition that the Torah be explained to him while he stood on one foot. Hillel accepted him as a candidate for conversion to Judaism, but, drawing on Leviticus chapter 19 verse 18, briefed the man: what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. This is the whole Torah. The rest is the explanation. Go and learn. Hillel recognized brotherly love as the fundamental principle of Jewish ethics. Rabbi Akiva agreed and suggested that the principle of love must have its foundation in Genesis chapter 1, which teaches that all men are the offspring of Adam, who was made in the image of God. According to Jewish rabbinic literature, the first man, Adam, represents the unity of mankind. This is echoed in the modern preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it is also taught that Adam is last in order according to the evolutionary character of God's creation. Why was only a single specimen of man created first? To teach us that he who destroys a single soul destroys a whole world, and that he who saves a single soul saves a whole world. Furthermore, so no race or class may claim a nobler ancestry, saying, our father was born first, and, finally, to give testimony to the greatness of the Lord, who caused the wonderful diversity of mankind to emanate from one type. And why was Adam created last of all beings? To teach him humility, for if he be overbearing, let him remember that the little fly preceded him in the order of creation. The Jewish Publication Society's edition of Leviticus: thou shalt not hate thy brother. In thy heart thou shalt surely rebuke thy neighbor, and not bear sin because of him. 18. Thou shalt not take vengeance, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. This Torah verse represents one of several versions of the Golden Rule, which itself appears in various forms, positive and negative. It is the earliest written version of the concept in a positive form. At the turn of the eras, the Jewish rabbis were discussing the scope of the meaning of Leviticus chapter 19 verse 18 and 1934 extensively. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I, the Lord, am your God. Commentators summed up foreigners, proselytes or Jews to the scope of the meaning. The sage Hillel formulated an alternative form of the Golden Rule. When asked to sum up the entire Torah concisely, he explained, and taught the proselyte, that which is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. That is the whole Torah. The rest is the explanation. Go and learn it. On the verse, love your fellow as yourself, the classic commentator Rashi quotes from Torah Kohanim, an early midrashic text regarding the famous dictum of Rabbi Akiva, love your fellow as yourself. Rabbi Akiva says this is a great principle of the Torah. Israel's Postal Service quoted from the previous Leviticus verse when it commemorated the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on a 1958 postage stamp. Christianity, according to Simon Blackburn, although the Golden Rule can be found in some form in almost every ethical tradition, the rule is sometimes claimed by Christianity as its own. The Golden Rule has been attributed to Jesus of Nazareth, who used it to summarize the Torah. Do to others what you want them to do to you. This is the meaning of the law of Moses and the teaching of the prophets. The common English phrasing is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. A similar form appeared in a Catholic catechism around 1567. The Golden Rule is stated positively numerous times in the Hebrew Pentateuch as well as the prophets and writings. Leviticus chapter 19 verse 18 and Leviticus chapter 19 verse 34. The Old Testament deuterocanonical books of Tobit and Sirach, accepted as part of the scriptural canon by Catholic Church, Eastern Orthodoxy, and the non-Chalcedonian churches, express a negative form of the Golden Rule: do to no one what you yourself dislike. Quote, recognize that your neighbor feels as you do, and keep in mind your own dislikes. At the time of Hillel, an elder contemporary of Jesus of Nazareth, the negative form of the Golden Rule was already proverbial among Second Temple Jews. When asked to sum up the entire Torah concisely, he answered, that which is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. That is the whole Torah. The rest is the explanation. Go and learn. Quote, two passages in the New Testament quote Jesus of Nazareth espousing the positive form of the rule. Matthew chapter 7 verse 12, do to others what you want them to do to you. This is the meaning of the law of Moses and the teaching of the prophets. Luke chapter 6 verse 31, do to others what you would want them to do to you. A similar passage, a parallel to the Great Commandment, is Luke chapter 10 verses 25 to 28. 25 In one day an authority on the law stood up to put Jesus to the test. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to receive eternal life? 26 What is written in the law? Jesus replied, how do you understand it? 27 He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love him with all your strength and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as you love yourself. 28 You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do that, and you will live. Quote, The passage in the book of Luke then continues with Jesus answering the question, who is my neighbor, by telling the parable of the Good Samaritan, indicating that your neighbor is anyone in need. This extends to all, including those who are generally considered hostile. Jesus' teaching goes beyond the negative formulation of not doing what one would not like done to themselves, to the positive formulation of actively doing good to another that, if the situations were reversed, one would desire that the other would do for them. This formulation, as indicated in the parable of the Good Samaritan, emphasizes the needs for positive action that brings benefit to another, not simply restraining oneself from negative activities that hurt another. Taken as a rule of judgment, both formulations of the Golden Rule, the negative and positive, are equally applicable. In one passage of the New Testament, Paul the Apostle refers to the Golden Rule. Galatians chapter 5 verse 14, for all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Islam. The Golden Rule is implicitly expressed in some verses of the Quran, and is explicitly declared in the sayings of Muhammad. A common transliteration is aheb li akik ma tuhibu li nafshik. This can be translated as, wish for your brother what you wish for yourself, or love your brother as you love yourself. For the Quran, the first verse recommends the positive form of the rule, and the subsequent verses condemn not abiding the negative form of the Golden Rule. And you should forgive and overlook. Do you not like God to forgive you? And Allah is the merciful forgiving. Woe to those who, when they have to receive by measure from men, they demand exact full measure, but when they have to give by measure await to men, give less than due. Orphans and the needy, give them something and speak kindly to them. And those who are concerned about the welfare of their own children after their death, should have fear of God and guide them properly. O you who believe, spend of the good things that you have earned, and do not even think of spending worthless things that you yourselves would be reluctant to accept. For the Hadith, the collected oral and written accounts of Muhammad and his teachings during his lifetime, a Bedouin came to the Prophet, grabbed the stirrup of his camel and said, O the Messenger of God, teach me something to go to heaven with it. Prophet said, as you would have people do to you, do to them, and what you dislike to be done to you, don't do to them. Now let the stirrup go. None of you believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself. Seek for mankind that of which you are desirous for yourself, that you may be a believer. That which you want for yourself, seek for mankind. The most righteous person is the one who consents for other people what he consents for himself, and who dislikes for them what he dislikes for himself. Ali ibn Abi Talib says, O my child, make yourself the measure between you and others. Thus, you should desire for others what you desire for yourself, and hate for others what you hate for yourself. Do not oppress as you do not like to be oppressed. Do good to others as you would like good to be done to you. Regard bad for yourself whatever you regard bad for others. Accept that from others which you would like others to accept from you. Do not say to others what you do not like to be said to you. Other hadiths containing the Golden Rule are Anas related that Muhammad said, none of you is truly a Muslim until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. Whoever wishes to be delivered from the fire and to enter paradise should treat other people as they wish to be treated themselves. Do unto all men as you would wish to have done unto you, and reject for others what you would reject for yourself. Baha'i Faith. The writings of the Baha'i Faith, while encouraging everyone to treat others as they would treat themselves, go further by introducing the concept of preferring others before oneself. O Son of Man, deny not my servant should he ask anything from thee, for his face is my face, be then abashed before me. Blessed is he who preferreth his brother before himself. And if thine eyes be turned towards justice, choose thou for thy neighbor that which thou choosest for thyself. Ascribe not to any soul that which thou wouldst not have ascribed to thee, and say not that which thou dost not. Indian religions. Hinduism. One should never do that to another which one regards as injurious to one's own self. This, in brief, is the rule of Dharma. Other behavior is due to selfish desires. By making Dharma your main focus, treat others as you treat yourself also. If the entire Dharma can be said in a few words, then it is that which is unfavorable to us. Do not do that to others. Buddhism. Buddha made this principle one of the cornerstones of his ethics in the 6th century BC. It occurs in many places and in many forms throughout the Tripitaka. comparing oneself to others in such terms as just as I am so they, just as they are so am I. He should neither kill nor cause others to kill. One who, while himself seeking happiness, oppresses with violence other beings who also desire happiness, will not attain happiness hereafter. Hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. Putting oneself in the place of another, one should not kill nor cause another to kill. Jainism. The golden rule is paramount in the Jainist philosophy and can be seen in the doctrines of ahimsa and karma. As part of the prohibition of causing any living beings to suffer, Jainism forbids inflicting upon others what is harmful to oneself. The following quotation from the Akaranga Sutra sums up the philosophy of Jainism. Nothing which breathes, which exists, which lives, or which has essence or potential of life, should be destroyed or ruled over, or subjugated, or harmed, or denied of its essence or potential. In support of this truth, I ask you a question. Is sorrow or pain desirable to you? Quote, if you say, yes it is, it would be a lie. If you say, no, it is not, you'll be expressing the truth. Just as sorrow or pain is not desirable to you, so it is to all which breathe, exist, live or have any essence of life. To you and all, it is undesirable, and painful, and repugnant. A man should wander about treating all creatures as he himself would be treated. In happiness and suffering, in joy and grief, we should regard all creatures as we regard our own self. Saman Suttam of Jinendravani gives further insight into this precept. Just as pain is not agreeable to you, it is so with others. Knowing this principle of equality, treat other with respect and compassion. Killing a living being is killing one's own self. Showing compassion to a living being is showing compassion to oneself. He who desires his own good should avoid causing any harm to a living being. Seekers are precious like jewels of the minds of all. To hurt them is not at all good. If thou desirest thy beloved, then hurt thou not anyone's heart. East Asian religions. Confucianism. What you do not wish for yourself, do not do to others. Zigong asked, is there any one word that could guide a person throughout life? The master replied, how about Shu? Never impose on others what you would not choose for yourself. Confucius. Analects 15:24. Tr. David Hinton. The same idea is also presented in V12 and I-30 of the Analects, which can be found in the online Chinese text project. It should be noted, however, that the phraseology differs from the Christian version of the Golden Rule. It does not presume to do anything unto others, but merely to avoid doing what would be harmful. It does not preclude doing good deeds and taking moral positions, but there is slim possibility for a Confucian missionary outlook, such as one can justify with the Christian Golden Rule. Taoism. The sage has no interest of his own, but takes the interests of the people as his own. He is kind to the kind. He is also kind to the unkind, for virtue is kind. He is faithful to the faithful. He is also faithful to the unfaithful, for virtue is faithful. Regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss. Mohism. If people regarded other people's states in the same way that they regard their own, who then would incite their own state to attack that of another? For one would do for others as one would do for oneself. If people regarded other people's cities in the same way that they regard their own, who then would incite their own city to attack that of another? For one would do for others as one would do for oneself. If people regarded other people's families in the same way that they regard their own, who then would incite their own family to attack that of another? For one would do for others as one would do for oneself. And so if states and cities do not attack one another and families do not wreak havoc upon and steal from one another, would this be a harm to the world or a benefit? Of course one must say it is a benefit to the world. Mozi regarded the Golden Rule as a corollary to the cardinal virtue of impartiality, and encouraged egalitarianism and selflessness in relationships. Iranian religions, Zoroastrianism, new religious movements. Wicca. Hear ye these words and heed them well, the words of D, thy mother goddess. I command thee thus, O children of the earth, that which ye deem harmful unto thyself, the very same shall ye be forbidden from doing unto another, for violence and hatred give rise to the same. My command is thus, that ye shall return all violence and hatred with peacefulness and love, for my law is love unto all things. Only through love shall ye have peace, yea, and verily only peace and love will cure the world, and subdue all evil. Scientology. The Way to Happiness expresses the Golden Rule both in its negative, prohibitive form and in its positive form. The negative, prohibitive form is expressed in Precept 19 as 19. Try not to do things to others that you would not like them to do to you. The positive form is expressed in Precept 20 as 20. Try to treat others as you would want them to treat you.